All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's topic, how to customize CRM for the difficult salesperson. This session was originally presented with rave reviews at the 2019 User Group Summit in Orlando, Florida, and we're very excited to be bringing it to you today via the web. Ashley Steiner, CRMUG All-Star and Business Analyst at Ledgeview Partners, will be giving the presentation today. But before I let her dive in, I have a few quick housekeeping notes for you, so bear with me here. I'm Julia Flaherty, Digital Marketing Specialist at Ledgeview Partners. For those of you who haven't been on our webinars before and don't know us, we are a business and technology consulting firm who partners with organizations to transform sales, marketing, and customer service operations and processes that are supported by core technology like Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM and marketing automation. Through different processes and solutions, our experts help you to achieve your unique business goals. We estimate that today's webinar will take up about an hour of your time. It's being recorded and will be available on demand after this live session, so all of you will receive a follow-up email after the webinar is complete with a link to access the presentation. If you haven't already, add at ledgeviewpartners.com to your Safe Centers list to ensure you have no trouble receiving this email. Or if you find any mail from us in your spam folder, mark it as not spam. We encourage you to share this link within your company and professional networks. To ensure the best audio quality, all of you are on listen-only mode, but if you do have a question or comment as we go, just submit them in the question pane of your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will follow up with you afterwards. Now that this is covered, it's time to introduce today's presenter. Ashley Steiner is an experienced CRM system manager and admin, Dynamics community leader and speaker, and technological support resource. Throughout her career, Steiner has driven strategic initiatives enterprise-wide for a variety of business types. She's worked with Microsoft Dynamics since version 4.0. Her focus on the integration of business processes and harmony with leading technology solutions helps ensure consistency and accountability for her customers. So now that you know a little more about her and her background, it's time to give Ashley a warm welcome and let her get things started. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Julia. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. So just a little bit more about myself. So I've been working, like Julia said, with CRM for about 10 years. You can see my contact information here. I'm really excited to talk with everyone today about Dynamics and dive into the topic. So like Julia said, I've always been on the functional side of CRM. I focus on how to integrate the business process with CRM and really get into why users don't want to use CRM and how to take that, take the user and really dive them into CRM and how to turn them into a really good sponsor of the system. So let's dive into today's topic. So what are we going to do today? And why are we here? Why did you take the time out of your day to jump onto this webinar? So we're going to really focus the conversation today around your customer, because at the end of the day, your customers are the most important part of your organization. Everything that you do, every decision that you make about your CRM system should revolve around the customer, because they're the people bringing money into your organization. So we're going to focus all the conversation today about helping and enabling your salespeople to care for or to become better sellers to your customers. So, and then after we talk and have that conversation, we're going to actually open up Dynamics 365 sales and help you be able to match your sales process inside of CRM. And then finally, we're going to have a conversation about how to continuously engage your salespeople after they have this great system in their hands. So there's kind of an elephant in the room when you talk about salespeople and CRM systems, and they don't want to use CRM systems. And it's not just Dynamics. There's a lot of conversation out there about why salespeople don't want to use CRM. And salespeople talk a lot, right? They talk to each other. Sometimes they talk to their managers about why they don't want to use CRM. It makes their way up to leadership. Salespeople just don't like using CRM systems. I like to call these people antagonistic anti-sponsors because, not only are they not using it themselves, but then they start to talk to everybody else and get everybody else on their side about why they don't want to use the system. And then now you have this group of people not using the system and saying all these negative things about the system. And you've worked so hard as a CRM, administrator, manager, and IT professional. This thing is your baby, right? You've worked so hard on it, and you've put all this work and effort into it, and you have this group of people just talking negatively about it. But at the end of the day, we can't be afraid to call the baby ugly. CRM systems are not perfect. We can't be afraid to call out the things that could be wrong with it. So we have to be, upfront and honest about the things that could go wrong with the CRM system. And, these are just a few of the things that I've noticed over time that could be wrong. So, is your executive team on board with the CRM system? Were they upfront, about putting up the money? They were super invested. They attended all the meetings. Did they slowly stop attending the meetings? Did they start not believing in it so much? Do they even know what their password is to log in? Do they start talking about maybe switching to another system? That trickles down to the salespeople. They hear those rumors about maybe switching to another system. And, that really reflects on the salespeople's perception of the CRM system and that executive buy-in. Does the CRM system support their business strategy? The strategy really supports how you win customers. So if they're not able to close business using the CRM system, they're not going to want to use the system. Is the ownership undefined? Whenever I bring this up in a room, when I have people in front of me, you kind of feel the tension change a little bit. And I don't know what the split is here between business and IT on the phone, but whenever you talk about who owns the CRM system, the tension shifts a little bit. Who owns the CRM? Is it owned by the business? Is it owned by IT? Is there tension creating, where is it funded from? And that trickles down. You might not think that your users feel that, but they do. And so if there's not enough funding to support the CRM system, to take it to new places, to give your users what they need, that does trickle down to your end user, whether you know it or not. Was there a previous failed implementation? And is that their sole view of what a CRM system is like? So you as a CRM professional, you might have that previous failed implementation and know that this implementation is not going to be the same way, but their only view of a CRM system might be a failed implementation. So change management really comes into play on how to change their perception. Is there just a disinterest for technology in general among your sales team or just your users in general? This could be a generational thing. It could be mobile. Has your team adopted a mobile application? Do they not like to log into a system every day? And a CRM system could really disrupt that. Salespeople like to do the same thing every day, and introducing something new, like a CRM system, is just a disruption to the way that they've always done their business. So it's not that it's good or bad, it's just disruption to the way that they've always done how they've always sold. Data inconsistencies is one of the biggest problems, I would say, with CRM, and I could talk probably for 8 hours all day about this. Please let me know if you want to. Data is a huge problem with CRM. And to be honest, salespeople probably create some of the data problems for themselves, right? They're entering all this, bad information into CRM. But when they log in and they're not seeing the information that they need at their fingertips, they're going to completely lose interest in a system. And were the builders even connected with the right users in the beginning to, build this system? I have an image here. As I'll talk through it, I want you to absorb this image. This speaks a little bit too much to me, as the way that I've worked with CRM in the past, and now as a business analyst, it definitely speaks to me a little bit too much. But what did the customer really want? How did they explain it? How was the project built? Does your system even really do what it needs to do? How did you document it? So making sure that you have users in the room as you're planning and building the system is really important. Feel free to steal this image. I use it a lot, especially when I work internally with people, to make sure that we're staying on track and the right people are in the room. This one hits a little too close to home, and I hope it makes you chuckle a little bit, even if it hurts a little inside. So why are we here today? Why did you decide to take an hour out of your day? Everyone's busy. As a CRM professional, I was an administrator. I managed a team of CRM people, and now I'm an analyst, working with end users to help try to, try to implement the right CRM systems and expand their systems. So why did you take an hour out of your day to spend time with me to learn why salespeople, how to customize your system to help salespeople? And this is how I think that you should be able to do this. So the objectives today, we're going to walk through and actually start outside the system, which kind of seems a little contradictory when this is a CRM webinar, right? We're probably not even going to open up CRM for the first 35 minutes of this webinar. So hopefully that doesn't disappoint you. Hopefully you don't log out right now saying, oh gosh, we're not even going to open up CRM, I'm logging out. But every good implementation of CRM actually starts outside of the system, because you need to understand how your salespeople work. And you do that by understanding the 5 traits of a successful sales organization. Now, as a CRM professional, you're not going to be responsible for identifying these, but you will sit with your sales team to help them understand and identify what these are. So you won't be responsible for building them, but you do need to be responsible for understanding and knowing what they are, and then understanding how they will relate to your CRM system. Then we will actually open up and demo how you can take those things that you've identified in those 5 traits and configure your D365 environment to enable your salespeople. I am one of those rare people that don't think that less clicks make your salespeople more effective. Sometimes things do take a few more clicks to make your salespeople a better salesperson, because it's still going to get them better to be where they are right now. All you have to do is make them more effective than what they are today. And so we're going to talk about some of that today. And then once we're done demoing the system, we're going to jump back in and talk about how to continuously engage your salespeople. How do the conversation doesn't end just when you give them this great system and say, okay, good luck, have fun. You got to continue that conversation with your salespeople. So without further ado, let's talk about what those 5 traits are. It's always really exciting to unveil these. I'll let you go ahead and read these. We're going to dive into each one individually. And up front, at a high level, you're going to notice that they don't have anything to do kind of right off the bat with CRM. But as we dive into each one, you're going to see the correlation to how they interact with CRM and what they have to do with CRM, and how you can take pieces of them and start to design your system. They do transcend all industries. So we probably have people from all industries on the phone today, and you'll be able to take these no matter the size of your sales organization. You're going to be able to use these to help your salespeople understand, how they need to work, how they need to engage their customer, because at the end of the day, everything that they do should revolve around their customer. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing is that you need to have a clear sales strategy and an easy to understand sales process. So what's the difference between a sales strategy and a sales process? Again, as a CRM professional, I do not expect you to be the person to sit down and write these things, but you do need to understand what these are and how they correlate and relate to your salespeople. So sales strategy answers the who, the what, and the why. Who are your customers? What are they buying? And why should they buy from you? And it also understands how we invest back into our salespeople. One way that you invest back into your salespeople is by, investing into a tool like CRM to help make them better salespeople. The sales process is a lot easier to understand, I believe, as a CRM professional. It answers the how and the when. So, how are you going to sell to the customer, and when does that sales cycle actually start? So this should be well documented, and it should also define how your salesperson should work. What are their successes and what are their failures? This should have nothing to do, when it's documented, actually to do with CRM. This does not mean, okay, I'm going to log into CRM and I'm going to, create a lead at this point, and then I'm going to enter some phone calls. I'm going to qualify it into an opportunity. A sales process should not mention CRM at all. A well-documented sales process actually is just how you interact and engage with the customer. And this should all be defined by your sales team. So at what point do they go find new customers? How do they find those customers? How many engagements does it take with that customer to move them into a qualified status? What is a qualified status? These have things that have nothing to do with CRM. And so a CRM system should never be mentioned at all in a sales process. Now, once that sales process is identified by the sales team, you as a CRM person will come in and you'll look at that sales process and say, oh, hey, I can see right here that when you qualify this, that's when I know you're going to qualify a lead into an opportunity. Or I see that you have multiple engagements with the customer. I can automate phone calls for you at that point. Or we can add a business process flow to add all these steps, or I can add fields for you to enter this data. That's where your mind as the technology person is going to come in and be able to collect that information. But the actual sales process is not going to mention CRM, but CRM will support the sales process. So I've added in here a sample sales process, and you'll see that nothing in here mentions CRM, but it does have a funnel, because that's the way that I think about sales, is everything should close into a funnel. So you can see that at the top, I have all of my leads, no matter what, go into my funnel. I need to collect information before I can actually qualify my leads. I need to collect the BANT information. That's pretty common in the sales world. To develop them after I qualify them, I need to gather what their needs, requirements, a deadline. Hopefully, as CRM people, your minds are going off saying, oh, I know what I can collect in CRM. And as I move down through the funnel, you can see that none of this is actually calling out anything to do with CRM. It's what I have to do as a salesperson in order to work with the customer in order to close them. And it sets goals for myself. There's a goal at the end to either close it as won or lost. And then there's points in there where I need to actually develop a proposal. I need to present. I need to develop a solution. And so that's what a sales process should have. It should have successes, it should have failures, it should have goals, but it should never actually mention any sort of technology. It is all your interaction with the customer. The second trait of a successful sales organization is called the specialized sales function, which is really just a fancy way of saying, what are your sales teams? And do you have more than one sales team? And that's okay, because your sales teams are going to work in different ways if you have more than one. And they might work differently, and they might actually use CRM differently because of that. So this comes into play really commonly when you have like an inside sales team. They're not going to work the same way as an outside sales team. An inside sales team typically makes a lot of phone calls. They tend to update information in CRM a lot. They hand off leads. They don't tend to close a lot of leads or opportunities. They do a lot of handoff, where an outside sales team will, kind of see it all the way through, or maybe they'll get a lot of leads from an inside sales team. So when you're documenting your sales process, really look for those ways where your sales teams may work the same or where they work differently. The goal here is that you want your customer to receive the same experience no matter what salesperson they are working with. And that's where a CRM system can really help with that. Through business process flows, they can receive the same steps no matter who they're working with, but the actions that salesperson takes might be a little bit different because of the way that lead comes in. And then a specialized sales function comes into play really in part because what I hear, one of the biggest complaints I hear from salespeople is that they always say, a CRM system was not made for me, or it doesn't work for me, or when I log in, I don't see any of the information that I actually need. I don't know where to enter information. Well, it's probably because the CRM system was not actually customized for them. Maybe it wasn't customized at all. The CRM might have been customized for a different sales team altogether. So when you're documenting your sales process, really look for those places where your sales teams might be working differently. and highlight those areas so you can make sure that you're going to be, you can make sure that you are customizing CRM differently for each team. And don't be afraid to customize CRM for each team. An ideal customer profile is one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to a sales team, because it's probably one of the things that makes salespeople the most nervous and puts them on their toes a little bit. So it's always fun to do that to salespeople. So an ideal customer profile, it is exactly the way it sounds. You're creating your ideal customer. And what it does is it puts a filter on top of your sales funnel. And you might be thinking, okay, what does this have to do with CRM? This is probably the one where you're visually thinking, I can't imagine what this has to do. Well, think about the complaints that you get from your salespeople. I log into CRM and I see all this data that it's just so cluttered. I don't know what to do, and I just log out because there's just so much data in there. I don't know what to do with it. Well, it's probably because your salespeople are just entering anything and everything they ever come across into CRM because maybe someday it will close. Gosh, that's a lot of information. I can't even imagine trying to weed through all of this information that salespeople tend to put into CRM. So what an ideal customer profile can do is it puts a filter on top of the sales funnel, and it really can weed out some of that information that a salesperson would work with. Man, salespeople are probably going to panic, right? So when you work with an ideal customer profile, salespeople, go from this idea thinking that the world is their oyster. They can sell to anybody and everybody. But then they go from thinking that to a smaller, more focused group. So they might think that their funnel is going to get smaller, when in reality, what happens is they start to sell to a group that is actually going to, over time, buy more from them, because this is the ideal customer that is going to, you're going to get more money from that smaller, more focused group. And in turn, your CRM system is going to be less cluttered with information. It's going to have only those customers, only that information that is going to be applicable to them, because they're not going to be just entering anything and everything they ever come across. I do have in the PowerPoint a worksheet on how to build an ideal customer profile. I know this is probably not the best way for you to get it. Please feel free to email me and I'm happy to pass this along. The next trait of a successful sales organization is probably my least favorite term in all of the world of CRM, but there's no other way to put this other than a 360-degree view of a customer. So when you think of the 360-degree view of a customer, you probably think about integrations, right? You think about, okay, I have this CRM system that my salespeople, maybe my service, my marketing team has access to. And okay, now I need to integrate it with any and every other system I have in my organization. And okay, sure, that sounds great. But we're not here to talk about that today. When I talk about the 360-degree view of the customer for your salespeople, we really focus and think about just what access and what 360-degree view of the customer that your salespeople need. And they need that right at their fingertips and need that just easily and readily available for them. I think back to a story that I spent with, when I was actually with a salesperson, and bear with me for a moment, but I was, with a salesperson doing sales calls. We were, driving around Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we were visiting different warehouses to see if they needed, trying to sell. And so we pulled up to one business, and the salesperson was like, I know somebody in here. I know the name of the person, the contact in here. Let me look it up really quick so I know who to ask for when we walk in the door. And me as the CRM administrator, I got very excited and said, oh, great, he's going to pull out his cell phone. We just launched the CRM mobile app 2 weeks before this happened. And he's going to show to me that this was such a success of releasing the mobile app that he already has this contact in CRM. He's going to search for them and have this information. Of course, I was disappointed. He reached around into the back seat of the car and pulled out a 4-inch binder of business cards and started to page through this binder. Never found the business card, took about 10 minutes for him to page through. And when he couldn't find it, he pulled out a second 4-inch binder of business cards and spent another 10 minutes looking for the business card. And I'm sitting there just watching him page through these business cards. And it was very disappointing. And I asked him why he couldn't just look it up in CRM. And he goes, oh gosh, I never put any data in there. So very disappointing. Never found the business card. We walked into the place of business. Of course, we never got any, we couldn't even make it past the reception desk because we did not have the name of the person. And we turned around within 30 seconds and went back out to the car. So when I think about the 360-degree view of a customer to a salesperson, yes, having that information from your ERP system, from other back-end systems is great, but it's really just about having what they need at their fingertips, because they need to be able to have that readily available to them. Who did they contact last? What kind of information did they talk about? I'm thinking about activities here. You know, when you think about, you know, the last conversation you had with them was 9 months ago. What did you talk about? You know, just having that all in one place is going to be the most beneficial part to a salesperson, so they can really easily search and have it available to them. So a key account strategy, it really comes into play if you have an account management team, which hopefully you do. Keeping a customer is a lot less expensive than gaining new customers. So if it fits into your plan to be able to sell existing sell your business into existing customers, what a better place to keep your account management plan and keep track of your key accounts than in a place like CRM, because hopefully your entire sales, service, and leadership team have access into this system. So you can build out that account management plan right on that account. Especially, what if they fall off the account management? What if they stop buying from you and you need to resell to them? You have all of that information, all of that back history right there on the account. You can build out all of those contacts that you need to contact. You can, it takes up to 8 buyers now on in order to sell to a company. And so what a better place to put that into CRM, where you can have that multiple relationship. And you can customize that. You can prepare agendas. You can have all of that information in one place, so that when you do have the account management, when you do sell to that key account, not only your salespeople, your account managers have access to it, your leadership team can also really quickly go in and see, hey, where's this key account? You can have different levels. You have that all in one place. And last, this is probably the most important one. I like to save it for last because I think everybody implements a CRM system because one leader at one time on the leadership team said, hey, I want to implement a CRM system because we need to get good reporting. I think that's how most CRM systems get implemented. And I would implore upon you to only measure your sales team or create metrics for what your sales team is being measured on. What are they getting commissioned on? What are they getting coached on by their managers? Those are the kinds of things that you should really only ever create reports for, and make those publicly available to everybody. Another story here is when I, again, was as a CRM administrator, we would send out a weekly activity report because some leader decided that it was important to track activities, that salespeople needed to reach an activity goal weekly. Yes, sales activity is very important. Our salespeople need to be out reaching out to all of their salespeople or reaching out to all of their customers. But they weren't necessarily measured on this. They weren't coached on it, certainly weren't commissioned on it. And so we sent it out on Monday mornings every week. And my Mondays were spent answering phone calls from all these salespeople who were certain that they entered all of these activities from the previous week when they probably didn't even log into the system. Certainly they did not enter in all these activities. And so they lost a day of selling because they were on the phone with me trying to convince me that they entered all these activities. I lost a day of working on the system to help support them. And so we all lost a day of working because of this one report that somebody decided we had to send out. And it really never actually did anything, this one report. So I would really just encourage you, as you're thinking about what reporting to measure your salespeople on, really make sure that it's going to be beneficial, and that it's something that your sales team is going to actually be measured on. When you create the reporting, I would also encourage you to make sure that it's in your Dynamics environment. Power BI is very powerful. If you have somebody on your team to be able to create Power BI reporting, really try to make sure that it's in your environment. And then also, as I've said before, some sales teams are not technologically gifted, right? They're not, it looks really cool, but sometimes they don't know how to really get the benefits out of a Power BI report. So make sure that the reporting that you create is going to match the level of what your sales team actually needs, and try to keep it all inside of CRM as much as possible. The more you can push them to be inside of one environment, the better. Try not to export it to Excel and send it out in an email, because that's just going to create a distraction, and then it's one more excuse to not have them log into the environment. So the more you can push them to actually log into CRM to get what they need out of it, the better. So if you, and you'll notice this as you sit down and talk with them, what are their pain points? What are their needs? Do they do forecasting? How are they getting commissioned? If you can put more of that into the system and create reporting for that, the better it will be. All right, so let's actually go ahead and jump into Dynamics and do a demo about how you can configure the system for your salespeople. And Julia, if you just want to confirm you can see my environment, I just want to make sure we're on the same window.
Yep, it looks good to me.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing I want to show here is I would really encourage you, if you're not today, to use the apps, in the model-driven apps inside of your environment. Everything that I'm going to show today is going to be on the new UI. Obviously, Microsoft released that they are going to be removing the classic UI as of October of next year. We'll see if they hold that date. Sometimes they come back on that, but everything I show today is going to be on the new UI. But if you have not explored model-driven apps, I would definitely encourage you to. This is a great way to engage your salespeople and remove all the clutter. So if you are familiar with, obviously you guys are familiar with the navigation and all of the things that salespeople see, it's a lot. Maybe they don't use all of the things. They don't use they don't use cases. Maybe you don't use quotes and orders, invoices, things like that. Remove the things that they don't have, that they don't need, and you can create a custom app for them. So I created this custom app called Sales Team, and I'm actually going to log into that app. So you'll notice that my navigation is going to be very pared down, and I only have given the sales team access to what they need access to. That's one way to get a big win from your sales team. It's a complaint that I've gotten a lot from sales teams over the years, is that there's just too much in the menu that they don't need and they get lost. So I created this custom app for them, and now they only have access to what they need. To make my window a little bit bigger here, I'm also going to hide my menu. A nice little addition there, so I'm going to go ahead and click that. One thing that I've always done with salespeople is to ask them what they need, just right off the bat. What do you need access to at the beginning of the day? How do you start your day? And the one thing that they've always answered me with is, I start from my dashboard. So be sure to sit with your sales team and get a feel for them of what they need from their dashboard. And I've created this custom dashboard, actually after sitting with some sales people on our team, of just upcoming tasks that they have. I created this calendar. This is actually a custom control that is new in the new UI. This is the October release. Everybody should have it now. It's now November, so everybody should have this. This is available to you. It's actually just using a view for appointments. And so you can actually see all of your appointments now just on a calendar view. So this is, and you can change it to a month, a day, or a week. And then nice yellow or the nice red bar here is shows that it's today. That was kind of alarming to me the first time I looked at it, but just to show you that's what that is. And then that's a nice calendar view. And then I also see my leads and my opportunities. So make sure that you give them a custom dashboard to work off of. This is a really big win for a lot of salespeople to be able to work off of when they first log in the morning. Shows them, what do I have to do today? What are my next actions? What are my next steps? So if you remember, I'm going to go ahead and expand my menu here, and I'm actually going to start out with my leads. So if you remember our sales process, when you sit down and work with your sales team, what you're going to notice is that sales process really fits nicely into your business process flow. So you can see here that on a lead, what I did is that first step, in order to qualify a lead, we needed to collect that whether they had the budget, authority, need, or timeline, or for short, BANT, pretty common sales terminology. So I've actually added that into, and I've customized my business process flow here. So in order to qualify it, I need to identify whether a lead, the person on the lead has the budget, authority, need, or timeline. So I would encourage you to customize the business process flow. Don't use it out of the box. Make sure that whatever your sales process is, customize this business process flow to what your needs are of your sales team. So I'm going to go ahead and say, what, the person I'm talking to actually doesn't have the authority, so I can't qualify this yet until I'm actually talking to. So Brian Lemie does not have the authority to make the decision. So I cannot actually qualify this lead until I'm talking to the right person at the company. So just small little ways that you can make the system customizable and usable for the salesperson so they can make the right decisions. Another thing that I've done in the system, and this can help with data, as a CRM administrator, one of the things that always really bothered me was inconsistent data. And one of the cool things that has been released recently in the system is the ability to actually do lookups or drop downs in your fields. So I'm actually going to go ahead and type in Orlando here, and then now in your single line of text fields, you can actually do a lookup to another field or an entity. So what I've done here is now for my state field, because salespeople are great at entering data, right? So they could type in here, they could either just type in Florida, they could type in FL capital, they could type in FL lowercase, they could misspell Florida, they could type nothing, I guess. So now what I've done here is Dynamics actually gives you the ability now to either reference another field with a drop down, or you can actually look up an entity, and then you can choose which field on that entity you want to look up. So on my entity, I actually created an entity for state, and I have the long name for all of my states, and then I also have the abbreviation. So I can choose which of those two fields I want to look up. So I can actually choose Florida, or you can even just start typing, and it'll give you what your options are. So it just kind of normalizes your data and makes it makes it look the same. You can do the same on country. I did not do the same. There are a lot more countries to create, so I did not do that. But it gives you that ability to make your data more consistent, especially if you have to use things for mailing lists, things like that. But as a data person, this is a nice add-in, and this is also a custom control that is available. Lead scores are really important. If you have an ability or a way to use lead scores, I would definitely encourage you to do that. And then you can also sort and move, move things into a hot rating, or you can actually just immediately qualify leads into opportunities based on the lead score. There's nothing out of the box with Dynamics that has a lead score, but you can, or to do lead scores, but you can integrate Dynamics with tools that do lead scoring. All right, so now we're going to jump into our opportunities. One of the things that I wanted to showcase is the editable grids. I know this has been around since version 2016, but I would encourage you to take another look at it. As an administrator, I was not a big fan of these because they're a little bit difficult to maneuver as an administrator, but I found that my salespeople really liked them because they could come in and they could, you know, mass update the data. So I know that they weren't really friendly to me, but if you haven't implemented these on your views, I would definitely give them another chance. Because you can come in here and you can update all of the information that you need to. And I found that users really like them. And then you do have to click the save button before any of the changes do take effect. So if you haven't tried them out, I would definitely give them a chance because users really do like them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up my opportunity. And I'm actually going to use this one as my example. All right, so some of the other things that salespeople are really going to like are things like automation. So if you can make things easy for them or pre-fill information, that's going to be really key for them. So when you sit down and talk to your salespeople, really find out the things that they're doing manually today. And one of the things that I've found that salespeople tend to do manually is forecasting. And so I added a calculated field here to kind of showcase a really simplistic way to do forecasting. I've implemented bigger ways to do forecasting with additional entities and roll-up fields. If you have not used calculated and roll-up fields, I would definitely encourage you to use those. But this is just a really simple way that you could do forecasting. So if you change your probability, you can't realize all of the revenue yet because maybe your probability is only at 70%. So everybody forecasts a little bit differently, but it's just to show you an example of if your salespeople are doing something manually today, try to find a way, if at all possible, to put it into the CRM system and to do it automatically for them. Salespeople love automation, so really try to find a way to do that. Especially and I've seen forecasting done with different entities. If you have to roll it into a different entity, that works really well. That works well. Another thing that is really nice is this relationship assistant. I really like it because it's a great reminder of what's upcoming on the opportunity. So this reminds me that I have a close date upcoming on the 14th. So it might not be really prevalent for me, and I just changed that to the 15th. So obviously this hasn't updated just quite yet. So it's just a quick reminder to show you really visually what's upcoming on the opportunity. And then what's really nice is that you can add additional cards on the assistant using Flow. So if you haven't used Flow yet, this would be a great chance to explore Flow, and you can create additional cards. So example, if you wanted to find out when your related activities are upcoming, you could add a card to say, oh, I want to see when my upcoming activities are about to come, my due dates are. You can add a card for that using Flow. Gotta love Microsoft wanting feedback. Another thing that is great is use business rules instead of JavaScript on the system. Obviously, any JavaScript that you put on D365 should now be supported, but a business rule is a really nice way to get around using any JavaScript. And so we talked about the ideal customer profile and how can you actually put that into the system. So I implemented this field here for what kind of opportunity is this? Is it account management or sales? So if I go to my opportunity details tab, you can see here that I'm only collecting what the details of the opportunity are. But once I switch this to a sales opportunity and I click save, now you can see that now I want to know what kind of, does this match our ideal customer profile? And I just need to select yes or no in here. I can say yes or no. And then I've also added a custom control here that I can do a star rating. Based on my answers here, I can star rate it. And I use a business role to show and hide this, whether it's a sales or an account management. Because obviously if they are, if it's an account management opportunity, we wouldn't necessarily care if it matches our ideal customer profile, only if it's a sales opportunity, so we wouldn't need to show that. And then I can also come into my 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 business process flow, and I can mark that the ideal customer profile is complete. So that those are just things that you can do for your salesperson to help them along in that process, and say, this is where you can match and remind them what the ideal customer profile is. You can give them that rating and remind them that they have to complete it in their business process flow. And obviously there are other things that you can do. Those are just some of the things that I think are really valuable for the salesperson. So make things automated, only show the information that they need on the form. Like we hid the information from the account managers, the things that were only visible to sales, we made sure that was only visible. So it's all about making things easy for your salespeople, and only showing the information that they need visible at the present time. All right, so let's go ahead and jump back in and talk about how to continuously engage your salespeople. Once they do have this great system in their hands. So once you've customized this, you've configured it, you've trained that, you put it in their hands. What do you need to do to keep that engagement up? Well, I would encourage you first to do initial training, but also continuously do training. Do ongoing training with your team. Training is never done, because you're probably going to be doing continuous improvement on your system. You have your first round of you implement your system, you put it out there for everybody, but that's not it, right? There's always going to be new updates from Microsoft. You're always going to be adding new things into your system. You're going to be rolling out new sections of the system. You're going to be adding new fields, new pieces of the system. So make sure that when you do that, you train your people on how to use it. Make that training available and easily accessible to your team. So if it's videos, put it on a site where they can easily download them. Make yourself easily accessible. Make sure that you're available on Skype or on Teams. And then also consider your users' learning style. So is in-person training better than virtual? If that is a possibility, sometimes in-person is not always possible, but make sure that you put yourself in a position where they're going to learn the best. And then also create various options. As adults, we kind of know our best way to learn, but make sure that you give them the option to choose the best way to learn. So create documentation, create little cards, or create, a folder, folders of videos. I used to create this like 80-page reference guide, which I don't think anybody ever read. Bless their heart if they did. But, some people learn that way. So just make sure that you create all the options available to people, and also be careful of information overload. So don't do an 8-hour training on virtual. I don't think anybody could ever pay attention for that long on a virtual training. So make sure that you put it in snippets that are going to be available to people. And then I would encourage you to create power users. If you don't have them today, this comes in multiple ways. Subject matter experts is one way. Ambassadors, I've seen them be called. So select a group of users. They'll get additional training with you. They might be responsible for creating views for people, doing training. They might be the best users of the system, but really it could be anybody. When I've done power users in the past or worked with power users, sometimes it was the antagonistic anti-sponsor. It was the person who hated the system and would talk about how awful the system was, because I tried to use them as an example and say, you know what, if I can turn them around, if I can change their mind and get them to talk positively about the system, that was a challenge, right? That was a challenge for me, but then everybody else could see that. And they would say, wow, that person used to talk so negatively about the system, but now they're a power user and they're using it. And so it really showed the benefits of the system. Make sure these users are involved in design conversations. So if you are thinking about expanding your system or implementing new features, include them. They're the ones with the feet on the streets. They're the ones using it day to day. Make sure that they're involved to share their input, feedback, and then they can also get feedback from other users as well. And then also choose by observation. Make sure it's people that are well respected in the community. People that are going to have a positive influence. And then use those people to train other users. Sometimes training is best served by other people that are doing the same job. It's really easy to offer training by somebody who is in the system every day, but if somebody who is doing the same job as you is offering you the training, that can be a better experience. Change management is one of my favorite topics about CRM. How do you get your users ready for a system, or how do you implement changes, and how do you communicate that down to people? It's if done well, it's great. Some people they forget about it, so don't forget about change management. Have a place for your salespeople to implement or to submit changes and requests and ideas. Don't forget that they will have feedback for you, and don't be scared of their feedback. So make sure that if try to put it in CRM if you can. Don't don't just put an Excel document out there. If that's the only way that you can do it, that's great. Just try to get their feedback. Think about how those ideas are going to get approved. Are you going to have a steering committee? Is it going to go to the leadership team? Don't have it just be you approving those ideas. You don't want all of that weight on your shoulders. Make those ideas visible to everybody. So first of all, so everybody knows what else is being submitted, but also so people can see what status their idea is in. So they can know that, oh, it's in waiting, or this costs money, so it needs more approval than just my manager. Or they can see, oh, somebody else has already submitted that, I don't need to. And then it'll also let them be notified on, what the status is. But either way, you want to make sure that the leadership team is involved. And then in addition, once those ideas are submitted, like I said, make sure that you are getting your team ready for that change. How are you communicating that down? Don't forget about communication. Over communication is better than not communicating at all. And have that plan in mind. So depending on what kind of change it is, this is the kind of communication that you're going to have. Like I said, I could talk about change management all day, so I'll stop there before I keep going. And then document everything. So don't just document your training. Don't just document what you're training, how you're training. Document every change that you make in the system. Decide how you're going to do it. Are you going to keep an Excel document, a Word document? Are you going to track it in CRM, SharePoint? Just make sure, because 3 years down the road, you are not going to remember why you added a field to a form. Trust me, you're not. So make sure that you track those changes, because over time, as Microsoft continues to update the system, you're going to want to remember why you made those changes. And then also, users are not going to remember. And then if you can combine those fields, or if you can combine information, it's always helpful. And that is all I had. So Julia, I will pass it over to you for next steps.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. That was a wonderful presentation, and I know today's attendees have a lot of key takeaways to take back to their work with them today. Before you sign off of today's session, I do have some resources to share with you that you'll like if you love today's session. We at LedgeView have a lot of content to offer, whether you're interested in learning more about topics like customizing CRM, aligning CRM with your sales team, or maybe marketing or customer service or technical how-tos. There's something for everyone. We have more than 50 ebooks in our current library available for complimentary download, product explanation videos, and many infographics and blogs for you to choose from. You can join us for some upcoming webinars and see what's available when you navigate to the webinar section of our website, accessible via the homepage at ledgeviewpartners.com. Thank you all so much for jumping on today's call. We hope to see you back for more webinars in the future, and we hope your holiday season is full of joy. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.